In the Know, a radio program talking to the newsmakers in Ogle, Lee, DeKalb counties and beyond, keeping you in the know. Here's your host, Charles Van Horn.
Good morning, and another Sunday with us. Rochelle Mayor John Bearrows in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing today?
Doing great. Always enjoying springtime, birds singing, grass is growing. Not too tall yet. Hopefully nobody's gotten in trouble with the city far.
I think we're okay so far.
You got another week or so to go to get your mowers fired up.
You bet.
Lots of things to talk about in regards to, I don't want to say a constant battle with Springfield, because the state of Illinois always tries to look out for all the communities and counties and regions. But one thing that Rochelle has that's unique over a lot of other communities is you guys maintain and manage your own power supply.
Absolutely.
And that is a big asset, and that's a benefit to the consumers and your clients in town regarding electric usage and how to keep that cost effective. And we've been talking in the past about how you guys keep the utilities up and you guys provide that value to residents. And there may be some legislation on the horizon in Springfield that might want to take some of that value away.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, at the time of this airs, we will have been in Springfield this past week visiting with some of our legislators and representatives to talk about just that. One of the concerns we have is the House bill that's proposed to kind of take the power away for controlling the rate for solar. Could be the forthcoming of taking the rate control away from the municipalities, which has already been tried once, and it's still in the committee. But hopefully, we can talk to our folks and let them understand where we stand as far as what I call a small community. We've got about 7,000 customers on our system. And compared to the other elephant in the room, ComEd has got millions of customers.
Yeah.
We're pretty small based, and we're very proud of the fact that our electric rate has been way below the state average for all along. And so we don't really want to see our people thrown into the system that ICC decides that the rate's too low in Rochelle, so we'll raise that up to match what the rate is in Springfield. Anyway, that's kind of the long and the short of it. But, we have to meet with our legislators. This last Wednesday is lobby day in Springfield. We'll be meeting with several people on several different issues. And our Representative Brad Fritz, I'm sure, will be down there. We'll meet with several folks. Win Stoller, our state senator, will be there. So we're going to meet with these folks to try and make sure we stay on track. And as I learned a little over 5 years ago when I came into office, one of the things that you want to remember is you want to make sure that your legislators and state reps, that they remember where Rochelle is.
Mm-hmm. And the one thing about this, the rate controlling sort of legislation, is that it's actually a two-way street, too. It also prevent, obviously, some utility companies from charging, I assume, outrageously over-the-top rates, and then also maybe create a floor. But that could also work against you guys, because maybe down the road in the future, they could tell you guys you have to lower the rates to where it's not profitable for you.
Yeah, and one of the things that we're extremely proud of within the city is the fact that we do have our own utility company. We have our own local linemen that, when there's a power outage, we just received that award a couple of weeks ago for being in the top 25 percentile for the state of Illinois for the length of time that you have your outages. And that's one of the benefits of having the local folks here working for a local company, because our linemen are right here. Our linemen don't have to get in a truck and drive 75 miles away to a major outage. They're here. And so that's something we've been very proud of. And I think, our residents can reap the benefits of that by means of, very few outages. We've had some here and there. We had the
rest in peace
effect.
Goose. Yes.
We had the goose effect a 3 weeks ago, but those things happen. But you know what? Honestly, that power came back on fairly quickly. And one of the things that we have to be clear about with that is, when there's an outage like in that particular case, they had to track things back to make sure there wasn't something else closed somewhere else, because you can't just throw the switch and turn the power on, because you got to make sure that there's not something else causing a problem. So, basically our outages are very, very reasonable here in Rochelle, and the length of time is very good.
And the efficiencies, again, I sort of said, make a profit. And I didn't mean that you guys are making a profit. You were just literally covering the expenses to get things done, which is the great part of the local utility, is that you just are trying to get close enough to keep yourself, balanced, and you're not having to, pay any Speaker of the House any money under the table, like other electric companies may have allegedly done.
Well, and one thing that has happened is, when you talk about solar, we are very pro green energy, with our methane gas turbines out at the landfill, with our solar powers down by the sewer treatment plant. Our amount and percentage of green energy is also higher than the state average.
Yeah.
So we're very much in favor of that. But the thing you have to remember is, as more things turn to solar, and unfortunately in Rochelle, Illinois, we don't always have sun and we don't always have wind. So we have to maintain the distribution system, because you got to have a backup. You need to have a base load, a guaranteed base load to be able to supply your customers. We've all heard about in California where they'll have rolling brownouts, and that's the reason. They don't have a substantial base load of power that they can count on. So, we have to keeping that distribution system in place, which means upgrading transformers, upgrading lines. Blake Tolliver is working very hard at getting a lot of underground work scheduled in and getting some of the electric put underground. But that all takes money. And if you just go 100% solar, or try to go 100% solar, we're not going to have the revenue to keep up the system to guarantee the electricity.
And down the road, sooner than later, it sounds like small-scale nuclear is going to happen as well. And that's a whole other legislative mess that's going to have to roll in to get that done. They've been talking about that for the last couple of years. It sounds like that's going to come through for small-scale nuclear. I mean, that's definitely going to change the game as well.
Yeah, and we've heard so many times about they talk about in the pushes for electric vehicles, and if everyone had electric vehicles today, I've heard the comments come back from other distribution companies that have transmission lines and such. We used to have a transmission line going down towards Stewart and south of Stewart, but we had sold that asset off. But basically, the transmission lines and the grid is not set up to handle what would be needed if everyone had electric vehicles.
Yeah, and never mind the fact that the households themselves aren't. Let's be realistic. You don't have service to your garage if you live in an apartment complex. If you work long hours at a business, you probably will need extension cords all over the place. And imagine the fun that'll be in the wintertime with a snowplow.
Well, we saw that this past January, when a lot of the electric vehicles were just stopped. I mean, when we had that stretch of really cold weather. But, it's all good. I mean, I like the idea of moving towards some green energy and being more ecologically friendly, so to speak. But, you have to do it in a methodical way, so that, as I always remember from my dad telling me, when you take a step, you need to think about where that next step is, because once you start, it's too late to back up. And so we have to kind of think about what that next step is, and every action has a reaction. So if you have all this action taking place to switch, what's the reaction of that? And that's what we have to be very careful about.
This switch to electric kind of reminds me of the city planning that took place into the 50s and the 60s when they did large neighborhoods and no sidewalks, and when everybody's getting a car. Well, now we have to sort of rethink that and go, well, everyone's going to get a very small electric car, and we have to make sure we have juice all over the place. This springtime, kids are going to be graduating, if you can believe it, in literally a month. Graduation ceremonies all over the place. Wanted to talk real quick about the graduating class of 2024. They may be going off to college. They may not be. But a lot of times, a lot of communities, such as Rochelle, you sort of have the youth leaving town and not coming back, not sticking around. What do you think would be ideal information to share with those graduating seniors about Rochelle has to offer to either come back to or stay here and work?
Well, first of all, on behalf of the city, we want to congratulate all the seniors. They worked very hard to get to this point. One of the other things that we have done is the city has been very proactive in establishing workforce education. We just had our job fair up here at the high school. We worked together with the high school on that. We really appreciate being able to bring those youth in to be able to see what's here to come back to. And as I've said before, and you just said it, when our young people go away to college, many times they don't come back. So it's our job, and it's our job in support of our local industries and commercial folks to be able to help them show the youth there is something to come back for. And, the Kishwaukee College, the Rochelle High School, Wabansie, we've all worked together to try to develop workforce training. We have a industrial task force that we meet quarterly to kind of talk about their needs. So then that information could be fed through to the high school. I know the high school is working closely with some of the industries to kind of talk about the training that they can have, because as I've said before, not everyone goes away to college, and not every job requires a college education. I'm not making small of the college education. I always say that, my life could have been much easier if I would have gotten a college education. But, somebody still has to know how to pick up a car with a wrecker, and somebody still has to know how to change a tire, change a tire from a wheel. And, there's all kinds of things that are supportive jobs that don't necessarily require a college education. I certainly think it's a great thing to have in your portfolio, but not everyone's cut out for it.
And it also, you can work in parallel as well, because there's no reason why, as an 18 or a 19-year-old, you can still get a job that may not require college at that moment, but still attend school and still live and work in Rochelle.
Right. And several of our industries have said, if they have someone come in that's maybe 18, 19 years old, and they begin with that company then oftentimes will offer some additional education that they pay for.
Yeah.
Some of our youth are probably going to go into the service, and we commend them for that. When they go into the armed forces, that's a very admirable thing. They can get education there. You just can't learn too much. But what we tried to do here in the last 24 months has really been, we saw it from the pandemic, actually, is what started it, when everybody was short of workers. And we said, hey, we've got all these folks coming out of college, and maybe it's Kishwaukee, maybe it's NIU, or it's the seniors coming out of the high school. We need to make sure they know what we have here, because honestly, there's some pretty darn good paying jobs within our community.
It was great to see that job fair, to see all those companies at the high school and interact with the junior and the senior classes to give them an idea of what's out there in town and not that far away. Some places were a little outside of town, but still, it was places that were actively hiring and telling either kids that they're probably able to get a job soon, or what classes and what college education they need to get a job. Plus, they also gave away some neat koozies, some Frisbees, keychains. That was nice, too.
Well, and, there's two parts to this. We talk about the youth coming back. We talk about helping our industries fill their jobs. I know several of the industries have said they're kind of okay right now, but they'd like to build up a list so that they have some folks to call from should they have a change in employment. But the third part of this, it's kind of like a three-legged stool. The third leg is our housing, and our housing is short. We need workforce housing. We do have some apartments going up on the south side of Rochelle. I'm working currently on a 5-year tax rebate program. I've made 2 presentations to all of the taxing bodies within our area. We're going to have a third one coming up, and my hope is to get that finalized. And what that will do is give not only perhaps some local incentives, but it'll also give a tax rebate program for a period of 5 years. The tax rebate program actually is 4 years, but the incentives go on for 5 years. So what we have to think about is, if we want people to build here, move here, stay here, work here, and spend their money here, we have to have an abundant amount of housing available for them to do that. And currently there isn't. So hopefully we can get everybody on board to get this program in place. There'll be some incentives for new construction. There will also be incentives for existing homes. That's my hope. I hope they'll go along with it, because what it does, it doesn't take anything away from the current taxing bodies.
Yeah.
All it does is, I like to refer to it as all of our taxing bodies collectively will be doing kind of a collaborative effort between all of us to make an investment into our community. And, if we don't increase housing and have more people moving here, eventually, and I'm in that category, us seniors are going to have to support all the services. And you can't ask the seniors to do that.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's another thing that I, give it a good plug. But I hope that we can get together and we can bring this thing to fruition to where we can have something to offer that not a lot of other communities are doing right now. A lot of them are talking about it, but nobody's put it in place.
As long as all the new apartments that are built have long enough cords to plug in electric vehicles. Mayor John Bearrows, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you much. Glad to be here.
Thank you for listening to this week's In the Know. The program returns next week at this time with another great conversation with someone from your community.